So you got massive unrest in Turkey right now. You got massive unrest in Turkey. You have hundreds of thousands of Turkish citizens that are taking the streets of the major cities of Turkey. The cops are using pepper spray and plastic pellets and water cannons to beat the protesters back inside of their homes. Now, this is the president of Turkey. This is a guy named Erdogan. Erdogan, his first name is Tayyip. So this is Tayyip Erdogan. So Tayyip Erdogan is the president. And the reason why you have the protest is because he went ahead and put this guy in jail. Who is this guy? Well, this guy, his name is Ekrem İmamoğlu. So Ekrem İmamoğlu is the main opposition to Tayyip Erdogan. So the main opposition figure is Ekrem İmamoğlu. And who is Ekrem İmamoğlu? Well, he's the mayor of Istanbul. And so the mayor of Istanbul has been arrested. He's been arrested on trumped up bullshit charges. He's a political prisoner right now. It's a bunch of politics, right? Politically motivated. Why? Because Ekrem İmamoğlu is Erdogan's biggest political opponent. And since he's his biggest political opponent, he's going to throw him in jail. He's basically pulling a Putin. And since he's been arrested and he's put in jail, well, they're going to take away his college degree. And then without a college degree, now they're going to say that he does not have the qualifications to run for president, because in order to run for president in Turkey, you got to be a college graduate. How long have these protests lasted? Well, these protests have lasted for the last 7 days. So for 7 days, you've seen hundreds of thousands of people get out to the street. And here's a line of the police. Here's some protesters with gas masks holding the Turkish flag. Here's more. You have, even this is interesting as well. I've seen this Pikachu running away from the cops. And, even though this is very serious, this makes it fun. This makes it fun and interesting, because when you see Pikachu running away from the cops, it's like, why are they arresting Pikachu? Why are they arresting Pikachu? Why is Pikachu such a big threat? Why is Pikachu such a big threat to the regime of Erdogan? Tayyip Erdogan. Why is this guy, Tayyip Erdogan, why is Erdogan afraid of Pikachu? Why is he afraid of Pikachu? So not only has this guy, Ekrem İmamoğlu has been arrested, and he's going to stay in captivity, in prison, until trial. Not only did they arrest Ekrem İmamoğlu, but they also arrested his lawyer too, Mehmet Pehlivan. So Ekrem İmamoğlu and Mehmet Pehlivan has also been arrested. This is an illegal coup. This is a coup by, a coup against democracy of Turkey. This is against democracy of Turkey, and so right now the democracy of Turkey is on life support. Turkey's democracy is on life support. Now Erdogan doesn't want the images of the protest, of any of the protests getting out to the world. So here's just a whole bunch of pictures. You can imagine what they look like, but just to make sure, that people are out there, people are out on the streets, people are pissed off. There's plenty of images, plenty of angry Turkish people saying, this is some bullshit. We believe in democracy. This guy, Ekrem İmamoğlu was chosen as the presidential candidate for the CHP party the same day that he was arrested, which was March 19th. And so for the last 7 days, it's because of this guy being arrested. You went ahead and arrested the main opposition figure. Now, this makes me think of Navalny in Russia, right? Putin has these sham elections, these bullshit elections, and if he's not outright killing his political opponents, then he's going to throw them in jail, and ultimately they're going to die too. I'm going to read this, just how Navalny had died. This was February 16th, 2024. This is just last year, 1 year and 1 month ago. The Federal Penitentiary Service announced that Navalny had died in prison in Yamalo-Nenets in western Siberia after taking a walk and then feeling unwell that morning. He reportedly died at 2:17 Yekaterinburg time. The prison statement stated all necessary resuscitation measures were carried out but did not yield positive results. The paramedics confirmed the death of the convict. They made sure they said it like that, the death of the convict. What was Navalny's crime? Apparently it was like some sort of libel case. He had said something bad about some, war veteran or some shit. It was bullshit. It was a bunch of trumped up charges. And they're trying to say the same thing for this Ekrem İmamoğlu. It's trumped up charges. Kira Yarmish, Navalny's spokeswoman, confirmed his death the following day and demanded his body to be returned to his family. Prior to his death, Navalny had been treated in a hospital after complaining of malnourishment and other ailments due to mistreatment in prison. His body was returned to his mother on February 24th, 2024. And on February 27th, 2024, Vasily Dubkov, a lawyer for Navalny, was briefly detained in Moscow for violating the public order as part of the ongoing crackdowns on Navalny's legal team and the Anti-Corruption Foundation, which Navalny was a part of. So, this has already happened before. I mean, my God, instead of just winning the election straight up by saying that you got, better policies, by doing campaign speeches, going around shaking hands, and saying that, making the promises that you need to make, by putting forth a platform that is inspiring, that rational people of Turkey can look at and vote for, well, you're just going to get rid of the opposition. If you just get rid of the opposition, then you don't have a strong candidate to run against the president. You don't have a strong candidate to run against the president. Then the president gets to win again. So this is bullshit. There's another thing that's going on too. In the United States, you had this woman, Ozturk, Mrs. Ozturk. She was just picked up off the street. She was just picked off the street, and then she was shipped someplace to Louisiana. A federal judge in Massachusetts on Friday had blocked the deportation of the Turkish-born Tufts University doctoral student Rümeysa Ozturk, pending a ruling on her habeas corpus petition. That judge was Denise Casper, who halted the removal, ruling that the court could pause any deportation to preserve the status quo while determining if it has jurisdiction over the case. So some of this stuff is bleeding over into America because America kind of has this culture of impunity. The rich and the powerful, they never get in trouble for anything they do. They could start all these wars. They could ship $4 billion to Israel to carry on with their genocide. They can be friends with Epstein and go to Epstein Island doing all their perverted crap. And the rich and powerful, the plutocrats in America, aren't stopped. And so we very much here in America are kind of setting a precedent, setting the example for fascist, authoritarian, totalitarian oppression. So this is a fascist, authoritarian, totalitarian oppression that they're up against, this Erdogan. And I got more information about this Erdogan, but I'm going to keep the picture on this Ekrem İmamoğlu. So this is the biggest anti-Erdogan protest in more than a decade. You've had 1,900 people, Turkish citizens, who's been arrested. There is no press freedom in Turkey. You've had journalists that are being deported. The BBC has been kicked out. There's a Swedish guy that got arrested. And there's no press freedoms. There's even journalists in Turkey that have been arrested and they've been put in jail for years. The answer is obvious. Why would somebody not want somebody taking pictures and writing stories about them? Well, they're probably critical, right? But ultimately, criminals, murderers, thieves, rapists, they don't want to be caught doing their murdering and thieving and raping. Murderers don't want their pictures taken. They don't want any words written about their crimes, and they don't want any videotape. It's said that 150 cops have been injured. Demonstrations are happening over major cities in Turkey. Hundreds of thousands of citizens. Hundreds of thousands of citizens. So right now, because the people of Turkey don't really see a way out of this predicament, because basically you should just release the mayor of Istanbul and let him run the city of Istanbul. The political party has already chosen an interim mayor until Ekrem İmamoğlu gets out. What do they have? What's the charges? It's trumped up charges. They don't have any concrete evidence whatsoever against this guy, Ekrem İmamoğlu. Just a bunch of talk, just a bunch of bullshit, a bunch of lies. So they got a bunch of lying liars, and they're going to try to push the lying liars, down the throat of a jury and try to get a conviction. This is based upon secret witnesses. Are these witnesses real or imaginary? Nobody knows. The police are conducting house raids. They're targeting protesters. At least 11 journalists have been arrested, and they're still in jail. And the people that are being arrested, the citizens, are a bunch of civil society citizens, people that are a part of civil society groups, liberals, pro-democracy, and trade union members. That makes me think of that poem by that one Christian when it came to Nazi Germany. He said first they came for the trade unionists, then they came for the communists, and they came for the Jews, and then they came for me, and nobody was left to stand for me. Climate of impunity. Netanyahu has broke the ceasefire. He continues to murder on and on and on. He's killed, over at least 700. In Turkey, Erdogan has banned Sosu TV, the opposition media, for 10 days. So the opposition media has been banned from broadcasting for 10 days. İmamoğlu was arrested on March 19th. In the election that he is, slated to run as a presidential candidate, he was confirmed as a presidential candidate as part of the CHP party. The election is not slated to take place until 2028. He was beating Erdogan in the polls, so a lot of polls have been put out there, and he's got more popularity than Erdogan. And so instead of Erdogan winning by having a better policy, better platform, and being a better campaigner, instead Erdogan is cheating. He's cheating. He's a totalitarian, fascist, authoritarian, criminal fuck. And so instead of winning straight up, he's just going to throw this guy, Ekrem İmamoğlu, into jail, and then probably Navalny him. Probably, some sort of poison? Putin had rubbed poison on Navalny's underwear. He had rubbed poison on Navalny's underwear, and then Navalny had survived that attack, only to be arrested later on. So the stocks and the currency of Turkey has plummeted, so that's going to be an economic hit. And so really, it's probably best for Erdogan to just step away. Erdogan, if he wants to be smart, Erdogan should just pick a person from his own political party to take over Turkey, because he's already been disgraced. Not only should they pick their own guy, but they should release Ekrem İmamoğlu. They should release Ekrem İmamoğlu. Why would they allow Ekrem İmamoğlu to stay in prison until what? Until he gets his food is poisoned, and then the guy dies? And then when the guy dies in prison, and then Erdogan can run a sham election and say, see, I won this election, and so therefore I get to be a part of, the governing coalition, the power apparatus of Turkey forever and ever. Here's a couple words from DW News.
And Can, I will start with you. Why are we seeing this happen right now? Why is Erdogan doing this?
Well, I think Erdogan pretty much felt threatened by İmamoğlu's popularity. If you look at the latest polls before the arrests, it seemed highly likely that if it came to an election between the two, İmamoğlu would actually win. Also, as far as the Turkish constitution is concerned, Erdogan cannot really wait until 2028 with the elections, because when the new constitution that was accepted by referendum in 2017, that was initiated by Erdogan, it says that the president can only serve for 2 terms. 2028, the second term would be finished, but his AKP, his party, built in a back door, saying if the parliament dissolves before 2028, then the president can be a candidate for a 3rd term. So, and since it's pretty...
So if you just heard that, he can't be a candidate again. He can't run for a 3rd term. But if the parliament is dissolved then he can, declare a state of martial law and then have emergency powers and then use his emergency powers for the next 3.5 years. For the next 3.5 years, this fucking guy, Erdogan, is going to fight against his own countrymen in order to stay in the presidential palace, to stay on the throne, to still be the king. He's not running as a president, he's running as a king. And so this is an authoritarian crackdown. Instead of just having a better policy, better platform, instead of just campaigning better than the other guy, he's going to cheat. He's going to fucking cheat. And they're going to try to Navalny him. They're going to try to Navalny him, put him in jail, put him in prison, either get the conviction, get his graduate, degree from college thrown out, or just poison him.
Probable that Erdogan is not going to give up power and is not going to be willing to give up power. He has to have these elections before.
2017, of course, also the year when Germany had concluded withdrawing its own military from a Turkish airbase over a dispute because Erdogan wouldn't allow German MPs to visit their own troops. So there have been question marks over how solid
Is that there?
Use this tool to weld loose railings.
Just click on one more video and then that'll
when
be
you look at the world, what do you see?
I love beef sticks, and I saw this 30 for $36 deal, so I ordered them to try them.
This video is brought to you by Brilliant. For the past year or so, there's been a sense inside Turkey that incumbent President Recep Tayyip Erdogan's time might finally be coming to an end. The economy is still a mess. His AK party were beaten for the first time at last year's local elections, and polling had consistently put the presumptive opposition candidate, Istanbul Mayor Ekrem İmamoğlu, ahead of Erdogan for the next presidential election.
So you don't see the poll, it's cut off, but it's saying that Erdogan is going to get 29%, and then the CHP, that İmam İmamoğlu, and they're not saying it just like how the word is spelled. I think they're just saying İmamoğlu, so the G is silent. So the İmamoğlu, Ekrem İmamoğlu, the mayor of Istanbul, is actually beating the president. He's beating Erdogan, 33% to 29%. He's beating him.
However, earlier this week, Turkish police suddenly detained İmamoğlu, renewing Turkey's economic crisis and fears about democratic backsliding in the country. So in this video, we're going to look at Erdogan's ongoing crackdown on the opposition, why it's happening now, and why it could be yet more bad news for Turkey's ailing economy.
Alright, so there you go. There's confirmation. I'm not bullshitting you. This shit's happening and it's bullshit. And it's bullshit,